Welcome to Daily Meditation with Zohar Lavie.
So welcome everyone once more to this week's sessions on compassionate response and the place of compassion and wisdom in our practice, in our lives. For those who may not know me, my name's Zohar and I am leading the sessions this week. Really wonderful as always to see the chat so alive with community, greetings, appreciation, presence, and so many new friends, old friends, people who've been coming to these sessions from the beginning when they started in COVID. For myself, a few very, very old friends here from my first days of practice in India. It's wonderful to see you here. And also, always some new faces, some new presences, all making up our beautiful community of practice here that is spanning the globe. So just looking at the chat and aware that it of course doesn't represent everyone that's here, but we've certainly got India, North America, Australia, New Zealand, as well as different parts of Europe, and some of us here in the Middle East as well. So very, very, very moved to be here as always and to continue exploring our theme in the usual format, which will have some reflections from me in a moment, and then time for guided practice and for some questions and reflections at the end, which have been so rich this week, so valuable. I know that you agree with that, those of you who've been here on previous days. So I'd like to spend a little bit more time today with compassion, kind of what it is and what it allows, what it serves in our experience. And habitually, when we come into contact with what is challenging or painful or difficult in our lives, in our experience, whether it's personal or global, if we can make that distinction, this push-pull habit that we were speaking of, exploring on the first day, kicks in. And one thing that it does, the pushing away of that which we feel like we don't want and the pulling towards of that which we feel we do want, part of what that does is actually keeps us at a distance from experience. Because our focus, our energy, our attention gets pulled into that push and pull mechanism. And that's also what builds our experience in particular ways. And we can see that, with body pain, very, very obvious, also with emotional pain. Instead of actually coming closer to, say, an uncomfortable sensation in the body, we get really caught up in the push and pull, and that keeps us at a distance. So we don't actually come into contact with the sensation, with the experience itself. I kind of stay at the level, at the layer of reactivity to it. And so there's this form like this distance, or sometimes even a turning away. I shouldn't probably do that, because then if I turn away, I'm turning away from the microphone. So imagine me turning away, or maybe I'll pause. Yeah, we do that. We turn away, we keep our distance from our experience. And what compassion does, it actually supports us to turn towards. It supports us to come closer. Yeah. But even just that turning towards, even that, just that looking at or coming into contact just through giving our attention, that's already a huge shift that compassion allows. It's already a turning towards our experience, which is really meaningful. And so how does compassion do that? It actually supports us in making that movement. And it sustains and resources and strengthens us. Through the different ways we've been exploring already this week, which are all forms of compassion, whether that's the capacity to pause, just pausing that habitual reactivity in the push-pull on experience, putting down the struggle, as already we're turning towards rather than turning away or keeping our distance from something. When we bring self-compassion, again, that sustains resources, strengthens us. And also, bringing self-compassion in, we're meeting our experience with compassion. We're tending to it. And it doesn't mean that we always need to go all the way right up close to it. We can and we will, and sometimes that will be a useful thing. But it's this turning towards the experience and relaxing that habit of keeping our distance and turning away. That is really helpful. And I'm saying that, and I just also want to say, of course, nothing is the right or the wise response all of the time. So sometimes keeping our distance might be a wise thing to do. And so self-compassion does that, pausing, putting down the struggle does this, and appreciation that we were exploring yesterday. They're all movements that bring us closer to experience. They're all movements that bring resilience, bring nourishment, bring resource to us. And they're all, we can say, movements of intimacy and connection. Kind of that sense of coming closer, that sense of connecting, that sense of listening to our experience. And so, we've been exploring these different ways, and we can also begin to expand and bring this intention of compassionate intimacy and connection. So compassion as a form of intimacy and connection, or intimacy and connection as a form of compassion, to more and more aspects of our experience. So that's what we're interested in doing in compassion practice, is to over time expand what we can meet with compassion. And why? Again, because it's a movement of intimacy. It's a movement of connection. And what happens when we're more intimate, when we're more connected with our experience? We have more understanding of what is going on, and we have more capacity to respond skillfully rather than just through our habits and patterns. So, we want to do all of this with care. So we bring awareness, we bring care to the pace of the expansion of what we bring compassion to, of what we become more intimate and more connected with. So we kind of move closer, and we're doing that with compassion, bringing compassion to the fore, to the center, and taking our time. And using everything that we've explored this week and anything else that from your practice as a support for that. So nothing in our practice exists on its own, right? It's always interconnected, interrelated with other ways of practicing, of seeing, of relating that can support us. There's our minor bird joining us this morning. It's not singing, it's just landing on the windowsill, but you may hear it in a while. So we take our time, and we might move back and forth, as we were speaking, I think yesterday in the or the day before, I can't remember, in the questions and responses, moving between self-compassion and other compassion, moving between appreciation and compassion, like the in and out breath, in ways that support that movement of intimacy, connection, and kind of a shift from the turning away to the turning towards. And I want to use a teaching story for this, just to illustrate it, hopefully, a little bit more what we're talking about here. And this is from the leprosy community, where we used to spend a lot of time. We used to go there every year until COVID, for 15 years, and do practice as also action. So do some service work in the community there, and so much of our practice and our learning happen there. And one of the primary things I did was to work in the home for the elderly people in the community, what they call the wisdom bank, and do things like massage and comb hair and plait it and things like that. And over time, I'd come for a month every year, lots of relationships building with the women and the men in the wisdom bank. And this is about one particular lady who I became, very close to, lots of love in both directions, even without much shared language. And she never wanted anything done. She was always very well dressed and cared for. And she would sit in the courtyard in the sun and read to some of the other ladies. But she always wanted to chat, to hold hands or have a hug, things like that. But didn't want more done for her. And one year when we came, I didn't find her. She wasn't there, and I was concerned, that she had passed away. And then the other ladies, after a few days, managed to convey to me, limited verbal communication, that she had broken her hip and she was in hospital. And then she came back, and because she was recovering from hip surgery, she was lying in a bed in a corner of the room, and she was not well. And she was lying there covered in blankets and felt like a very different person. It was very difficult for me to go into the room and into that dark corner where she was. And then, of course, the second hours came, and I felt very bad, and I gave myself a hard time for not being able to do that, to go to her. Even when she was not well, she wasn't sitting in the sun in the courtyard. She wasn't, well dressed and cared for, but actually, in distress and less cared for. And I started to practice with this. So it's a long story. I'll try to get to the point. I started to practice with this, and I would practice with self-compassion for my own distress at her distress. And I just got more intimate with my experience and could feel more layers of it. And every day I would come closer to the door, and then I would stand at the door and just have self-compassion there and send her compassion from the doorway. She was lying in bed covered in blankets. I thought she was in a really bad way. And I would do that and then take another step and another step until one day I walked into the room, and I ended up talking to the lady in the bed next to this good friend of mine. And as soon as she heard my voice, a hand reached out from the blankets and she called out my name. And then then the movement was immediate. I just clasped her hand in mine. There was no thinking. There was nothing stopping that. And that's all she wanted. So she hadn't changed, it's all she wanted. She didn't need anything more from me. She didn't want anything more from me than just the friendship and that contact, that intimacy, that connection of the hand reaching out and holding. And it was such a teaching for me about all the stories that came up in my mind, all the reactivity, all the push and pull, and then working with compassion gradually over a few days until it was possible to walk into that space. And once I had walked into that space, she did all the work. Yeah. And she listened for my voice, and she called my name, and she reached out so that we could connect again. So I'm bringing this in to say, sometimes we feel I should be this, I should be that, I should be doing this or feeling this or responding in this way. And then we just end up contracting. And this is where the appreciation, the self-compassion, the pausing and putting down the struggle, they come in, and we do our practice. Yeah. And we go at the pace that is possible and appropriate for us at that time, whether we're meeting something difficult in our own body, heart, mind, whether we're meeting something in the world, whether it's a combination, like in this situation that I'm describing. And this reminder, there's more than we can see. Yeah? And the mind fixates, and it thinks it knows, and it tells us this is what's going on, this is the story, this is who you are, this is what this person is, this is what the situation is. There's more. There's more, and we need to take our time so that we can turn towards, and open and connect and see what opens through that, what possibilities open up for us. So let's take this into a practice, a long story, and I hope it was useful. And beginning as always with taking your posture. So you may already be in a meditative posture, in which case notice if you need to make any adjustments, or you may be now settling into your posture, in which case you may be needing to make some adjustments. So feeling into the posture, inviting the awareness into the body, into the posture. Doing what is needed so the body is as supported, as stable, and as steady as possible. If it's helpful, we can use the sensations of contact. As a way of grounding and gathering the attention, the awareness in the body. And as we've been doing, finding that sense of the base of the body for yourself. Whether you're sitting, reclining, standing, walking, whatever posture you're in, tuning into the stability, the steadiness of the base of the body. Like the base of a mountain that we can rest into. Feeling the base of the body, and then allowing from that base the awareness to open and expand through the body. Like a mountain growing upwards from the base, or a tree growing upwards from the roots. Letting awareness fill and include the whole body. And remembering our intention for this practice. This practice may be an embodiment, compassion, and of wisdom. Feeling what that means for you. And then, if it's helpful, perhaps choosing an anchor for your attention. It can be the breath or the hearing, the soundscape. It can also be the intention of compassion. So noticing what's a helpful anchor for you, what is available and relevant to what is needed right now in your body, heart, and mind. Or just take a few minutes in silence to settle with the anchor, settle into the body or into the hearing. With that intention of compassion felt in the space of awareness and in the space of the body. So let's take a few minutes in silence together to explore this. So gently noticing what's unfolding in experience in this moment, always with gentleness, curiosity. Anytime when we feel push-pull and attention, and even when we don't, attuning to compassion, to tenderness and care, that intention, inattention. And we can make that the primary intention of practice as we attend to experience. We can bring that intention of compassion to an anchor such as the breath or listening if that's simpler. Remembering to soften and open with and towards experience as you practice. And to hold in tenderness whatever is here. As we begin to direct our intention of self-compassion, we can use phrases and we can use images or a felt sense. That rain, soft rain of compassion, drifting down and bathing the body, heart, mind. Or being held and supported by a tree as we sit in its embrace. Or any other image or felt sense that is helpful for you, that brings alive to some degree that intention, that experience of compassion. We can also use words, phrases, combination with image or on their own. And I'll offer some phrases and feel free to change them, to use your own, to shorten, whatever is helpful. May I find ease in the midst of it all. May I feel supported in times of difficulty. May my suffering ease. So taking your time with this, and we'll continue more quietly for a while. Using whatever is helpful to tune you to this intention of compassion. May I find ease in the midst of it all. May I feel supported in times of difficulty. May my suffering ease. Again and again, tuning into that intention of compassion, bathing the being with that intention, or holding yourself in tenderness, feeling yourself held by the earth, by the tree in your imagination, from the compassionate gaze of another. Possible, grounded in the body as you do this, feeling that spaciousness and rootedness of the body itself as you practice. And it's possible to expand and include and open also to the suffering or the distress or the pain of another. Might be someone you know, and it might be just a general sense, even here in the space of our practice together, of our community, knowing that others also know pain, difficulty, challenge. And letting that intention of compassion expand and extend. May you find ease in the midst of it all. May you feel supported in times of difficulty. May your suffering ease. So we can direct the intention of compassion to another through the phrases or the image. That soft rain of compassion, or an ancient tree holding another, or the earth being held in tenderness. Again, this may be someone you know or someone you don't know necessarily, just the knowing that others also know pain and distress. So as we continue to practice, noticing also what's the right pace for you and the right directionality. You might move between self-compassion to other compassion, or it may feel more appropriate to stay with one. It's noticing and respecting your sense of what's helpful right now. May we find ease in the midst of it all. May we feel supported in times of difficulty. May our suffering ease. Moment by moment, attending, connecting, coming closer, nourishing the intention of compassion as we practice. May we find ease in the midst of it all. May we feel supported in times of difficulty. May our suffering ease. For the last couple minutes of practice, feeling what's appropriate for you, continuing as you've been doing. Coming back to self-compassion if you've moved away, to appreciation. And taking these last couple of minutes of practice to really immerse in what's nourishing for you, what's appropriate, and what brings a sense of intimacy and connection with your experience. May all beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all beings live with ease. So please take your time with this transition. There's no rush whatsoever.
Today's podcast is an offering to you from our archive of freely available live daily classes. We make wisdom teachings and meditations as freely available as possible to as many people as wish to practice. You can help ensure we can continue to support a worldwide Sangha by leaving a review wherever you get your podcasts, by sharing this with someone who'd be interested, and by offering a small financial support at sangha.live/donate.